Hi there, it's John again. In my last video I was talking about William West and spiritual issues in therapy and about numinous experiences, and I used the example of when he was counselling somebody who was bereaved. They both had a sense of presence in the room, and the other person, perhaps quite surprised, would say, "God, that feels like Uncle Ed is in the room, or Uncle Joe is in the room, or whoever it is." Now, just talking about this, the first thing that I want to say is that this is itself evidence. Experience, as I've argued earlier, is primary to meaning and language, and it's primary to evidence. Remove experience from evidence and it becomes meaningless. So there is evidence there. If you were to have MRI scans on both of the people at the time the experience happened, you would find that the MRI device was an indicator of different parts of the brain lighting up, and indeed you could then correlate the brain lighting up with the actual subjective experiences of the people concerned. Now, the interesting thing, of course, is that if you and I were to meet, our brains would light up if we were being scanned. At the same time that numinous experiences, or experiences of presence, when there doesn't appear to be anyone else in the room, again, the brains would light up. So you've got an indicator in terms of MRI, you've got the brain functions, the brain lighting up, and then you have the experiencing. Now, all of those aspects actually go up to make the hard evidence, inverted commas. Now, the key question, perhaps that I don't feel you have addressed, is exactly what it is being evidenced of. Now, there is, of course, an assumption that when we are meeting, that we're experiencing each other. If we did meet, there's an assumption that we're experiencing something real, and that you are external to me. You're not simply a byproduct of the interactions of my brain. However, when it comes to numinous experiences, quite often the assumption, based on philosophical paradigms, are that the numinous experiences are purely inner experiences. So I just want to explore the similarities of numinous experiences to external experiences, and also the differences. Now, take, for example, those two people having a sense of presence. When we meet, if we ever met, we would have a sense of presence. Both William West and his companion have a sense of presence. Quite often there will be the experience of getting information. Oh, it's like he's communicating this to me, or he's communicating that. So there's also a sense of some additional information. Now, it's only a philosophical paradigm that would stop you from, or would stop you from interpreting that experience as, yeah, actually maybe Uncle really is here. And this is how paradigms interact. If you have a materialistic paradigm, then the materialist, by the very nature of his assumptions, has to assume that it's simply a byproduct of the brain. Let me go on very quickly to another example by William West. He was sitting with a counselling client, very frustrated. He then had a numinous experience, and it was as if he was taken out of his current dimension, and he saw a picture, a very vivid picture of a dog being locked and chained in a cellar and being beaten. And it was so off the wall, he shared it with his client. And then the counselling moved on, because the client revealed how he had been, quite as a child, literally chained in the cellar and beaten by his mother. and then the counselling moved on. Now, numinous experiences, as well as having certain similarities to experiences of external things, also can give us additional information that we wouldn't otherwise have had. So it's really a sense of there's a similarity in a way. There's a similarity between those numinous experiences and those other experiences. It's not adding an additional dimension, for example, to say, well, when I have a numinous experience of presence, I'm really meeting someone. It's not adding anything additional to me believing that I'm meeting with you. Let me give you a very quick example, because I've only got about 3 minutes left on this video. Brian Thorne is a Christian person-centred counsellor. David Meehan's is an atheist person-centred counsellor. They both collaborate on various books. They both have numinous type experiences. For David Meehan's, the experiences are conceptualised in terms of existential language of relational depth. For Professor Brian Thorne, they are conceptualised in terms of an experience of God. Now, for David Meehan's, it may well be that the logic of his position is that those experiences simply come as a product of his brain. So there's a propositional element. There is also a propositional element in Brian Thorne's statement that he's experiencing God, i.e. that there's an external source, if you like, or a part of the experience. In terms of falsification and verification, David Meehan's, the propositional part for David Meehan's is falsifiable if he actually meets someone in the next life. And for Brian Thorne, it's verifiable for exactly the same reason. What we're talking about here is not beliefs, we're talking about experiencing, language that carries forward experiencing. We're talking about propositional elements in language that are verifiable or falsifiable. It's more complex than just beliefs. My last part of this is that both Brian Thorne and myself and David Meehan's are all value and embrace those numinous experiences. All of us, in fact, gain both in our lives and our counselling practices from them. So my challenge to you would be this: even if your belief is that those numinous experiences simply come from a part of your brain, what is therefore stopping you from embracing them? And perhaps you are. Why not embrace them, since they enrich life? If it all turns out to be a big fat zero because the materialists are right, then at the very least you'll have had a richer life. And if it turns out to be verified, well, praise God or praise the higher intelligence, however you like to conceptualise it. Thanks for listening.